Steve Gardner does a great job covering baseball for USA Today. We got two very intriguing games today. Kind enough to join us. How you been, pal?
Great, but I tell you what, my head is spinning from all this stuff going on with the Nationals here.
Well, let's get to the Nationals first because it's really bizarre. I'm wondering if someone pulled Dusty Baker aside and said, look, we get it. This is your last stand, but you got to go out and you got to die with your boots on. Strasburg has to pitch. I mean, it's to me, even if he wasn't, I would have then said, okay, then you throw Gio out there in short rest. But if you're Strasburg, you have to want the ball in this situation. But it is bizarre. He turns around the weather, the mold. He threw a bullpen session. I mean, to me, it just seems like panic mode.
Well, it seems to me that Dusty Baker was out of the loop of where the decisions were being made, whether it was with Strasburg himself, whether Scott Boras has a hand in any of this. To me, Rich, reading all the signs and knowing Strasburg and seeing how meticulous he is, and, earlier in his career, remember, he was a guy that would get rattled when things did not go according to plan, if there was an error in the field behind him. To me, he's the kind of guy that relies on routine, and when anybody breached the subject of pitching a day earlier than he thought he was going to pitch, I think as our colleague here at USA Today, Bob Nightingale, wrote yesterday, he refused to pitch. I think that was what originally was the initial reaction, and that he didn't want to pitch. He didn't feel comfortable pitching, whether there's an illness involved, and maybe there is, but you've seen so many times players go out there, especially in Chicago where they're playing now, the famous Michael Jordan flu game where he came out and...
Got to want the ball, yep.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so many. Willis Reed, Kurt Schilling. There's so many instances of players who wanted it and willed their way through it, and that doesn't seem to be Steven Strasburg. Now, we did seem to get a little bit, as the situation percolated overnight, a lot of public brushback and criticism, that he didn't want it, and I think that's probably where the final decision was made. It's not a health thing, I don't think. I think it's can Strasburg go out there and give them what he's capable of doing? And I think he basically convinced himself, or somebody convinced him, you need to go out there or else you may lose the locker room.
Man, that's some bad optics. I'm sorry. I mean, first of all, and here's the thing. How many years do we keep talking about the Washington Nationals? This is their year. This is their year. They're going to run away with the NL East. Everything's coming together. Everything's healthy. This is Dusty's year. I mean, those are some – listen, if I'm Strasburg, you know what? I got to go and give me the ball, and I'm going to throw 6-7 strong. And then if you can't score runs, that's on you. But this setting up down the road, I mean, you look at Dusty Baker's track record. Go back to 97 when he was with the Giants and they got swept by the Marlins. 2000, 2002, 2003. Okay, it happens. Sometimes the bullpen implodes like it did in 2002. 2010, 2012, Cueto gets injured. 13, they lose the wild card game to the Pirates. Last year, they lost in 5 games to the Dodgers. I mean, to me, this is Dusty's last stand because if they don't win this game and they get bounced, you mentioned Strasburg, maybe Harper starts looking around Steven saying, I can't win in this place, and then they're probably going to have to look for another manager.
That's, all of that is definitely possible. Although I will say, Rich, that Dusty Baker, I don't think he's to blame for the team not hitting. And really, that's what this series is about. That's the reason that the Cubs are 1 win away from eliminating the Nationals. It's that the Nationals have not hit and have not gotten any sort of offense whatsoever other than 1 inning in Game 2. And, if the bats come out and, Dusty's shaking his lineup a bit, shaking it up a little bit today for Game 4, moving Jason Worth back to the 2 spot. If this old, comfortable, familiar lineup that he went with for a lot of the season starts to hit again, then everybody says, well, finally, the Dusty's got them back and they're back in the series and they can win at home. I wonder, though, it's not – I think it's out of Dusty's hands. I really do. I think this whole organization has a communications problem, and being able to I think Dusty was just thrown out there without all the information, and it makes him look bad, and it makes the organization look bad. Did Strasburg throw a bullpen yesterday or Monday? he didn't know the answer, didn't know the right answer. I mean, this is just a whole. Is he sick? Is he not sick? Is it mold? Is everybody else in the clubhouse sick? It's just so frustrating, and believe me, the fans in Washington are having a fit about it.
Well, because Steve, I mean, honestly, you thought with the rain out, now you have another day. You can buy a day, and
Perfect
then
situation.
Exactly. And well, listen, I still think no matter what, if they lose, heads are going to roll, and I just have a feeling they'll be looking for another manager. And you brought up an interesting point, because I look at the situation in Boston with John Farrell. Listen, here's a guy that's, I think, 4th or 5th in franchise history with wins. I mean, he's won divisions. He's AL East,
back-to-back titles.
Yeah, I don't even know if Francona did that, but he was a good manager. But now there seems to be some disconnect now. And then they decide, listen, they win 93, they win the AL East, they get bounced by Houston, they're going to fire the manager.
Yeah, I'm surprised about that, but apparently there's something else going on underlying that. I saw a quote from Dave Dombrowski earlier today that said that no matter what their success in the postseason, they were going to make a change. And this was after, I believe, they picked up his 2018 option earlier in the season, but now they decide to reverse course. There's got to be the untold story there as to why John Farrell is out.
But you believe he is a good manager?
I think he was pretty good. Yeah.
They had the pitching this year, no doubt. But and the reason I bring it up is because the Phillies have a list of candidates, and I know one of the names that have been popped up now is Ruben Amaro Jr. But now that Farrell, and I don't know what his contract. I mean, does Boston owe him money?
Yeah, I think they owe him for next season.
Okay.
So he can sit out for a year if he wants and still get paid, but I'm sure he'd rather be in a dugout somewhere.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, and then you look at tonight with Girardi, you've got another manager that I think some question if he's going to be back or not. And listen, the playoffs, you can't protect yourself. Managers are not shielded from the playoffs. And I want to ask you this with tonight. Encarnacion on that right ankle, I know, you put a little more when you swing a little more pressure on that leg. Do you think, if anything, the Indians, CC will see him tonight?
I think it'll probably be a pinch hitting role, to tell you the truth. I don't think they can afford a situation like the Red Sox had, when they started Eduardo Nunez in the first game of their series, and then he took one swing and went down and collapsed in a heap. I think they need him for maybe just give them one good at bat in a key situation, and that hope Corey Kluber can take care of everything else.
Yeah, but the pressure's got to be on the Indians. Over 100 wins, 22 games in a row. You blew a 3-1 lead last year in the World Series. The difference the difference in the manager's personality, right? Both very good managers. Francona is a great manager, but he'll try to leave the guys loose and open a little bit. Now Joe's. They'll both back their players, but Joe's not that type of guy. He tightens up a little bit, right? I mean, it's just, to me, it's going to be interesting because what if Kluber's on and CC struggles? And that's the worst case scenario for Girardi, and the dynamic really changes how he'll manage his game.
Oh, sure. I mean, you've got to have a quick hook if you're Joe Girardi. I mean, you have so many options in the bullpen. You've had one day for everybody to rest. You've got even Sonny Gray possibly if you're going to need a long man. I think, Girardi's going to have to manage it super aggressively, whereas Terry Francona can kind of take things easy. Know you've got perhaps the best pitcher in the entire American League on the mound, and he's probably pretty angry after not doing as well as he did or as well as he thought he should have in the first time around in the playoffs. So, I think the pressure is on Cleveland, yes, but I think it's easier to be relaxed if you're Cleveland as well.
Well, the one thing we've seen is that Kluber and Miller can be beaten. And you mentioned that CC with the short hook, and they try to get to the pen. And you're right, anything goes tonight because it's winner go home. I have zero confidence in Betances, though. He doesn't throw any strikes. He gets rattled out there. I'm just trying to go over this in my head, how they can say CC only goes 5, how they can really shorten up the game. And that's going on the premise that they're still in the game, maybe if Cleveland scratches out a run or two.
Well, I mean, Betances threw, 2 scoreless innings before Girardi asked him to go a third inning, the other night. I mean, I think at this point you have to be able to count on guys and put them out there and assume that they're going to be at their best. And if they're not, hope that you can see it as soon as possible and get them out so you can get somebody else in. That's the way you got to manage this, the do-or-die games like this.
You're right. And then lastly on this series, you look at Judge, you get the big homer by Bird and Sanchez, and you look at Judge and the struggles. I mean, it's going to happen. He strikes out a lot. I don't know if he's too tight, too tense. I think it's going to be interesting to see his first couple at bats tonight, just how if he rises the occasion or not.
Yeah, but it's hard to tell because that's,
I know.
Swing and miss is a lot of his game anyway. And, even during the regular season when he was on hot streaks, he'd strike out a couple of times in a row and look bad and then hit one, 500 feet his next time up.
Right. Right. Feast or famine, Steve Balboni-ish.
Yeah.
All right, how about the Dodgers? Are they back to being the Dodgers? That was a pretty impressive series that they had. It really was.
Yeah, sure was. Made my Diamondbacks pick look pretty silly. But, no, they looked really good. I mean, Yu Darvish is that number 2 or 1A kind of ace, it looks like. So, yeah, this is a very tough Dodgers team, and they're all healthy. And looks like they're playing awfully well, and that's what you want to do. You want to be peaking at this point. Looks like the Dodgers may be.
And they were able to actually make the Diamondbacks pitchers work, right? Try to throw strikes. And, they're fouling off balls. They're having very good at-bats. I'll tell you, though, it really, you got so many storylines. I mean, to me, it's bizarre. I mean, you're going to watch that game today, and Strasburg's every pitch, it's going to be second guessed or under the microscope, I should say. I mean and I think a lot of this could have been avoided. I really do. And now this is extra pressure because for a fact, listen, they don't know what's being talked about during the broadcast, but they know going in, they're thinking to themselves, man, our franchise player, our star pitcher didn't want to take the ball, or that's the perception.
Yeah, and all you had to say yesterday was, we don't think he's feeling that good, so we don't know what we're going to do. All you had to do is say it's up in the air. He's a game-time decision. How many times do we hear that in the NFL?
That's right.
All you have to do is just deflect. Don't say we're making the decision now and 24 hours later come back and say, oh, well, he was taking IVs all night and, you inject
it's a built-in excuse.
And mold spores and everything else into the conversation. It's ridiculous. There's no need for that. And, again, that's just kind of the way that the Nationals botch things, it seems like. They have a way of doing that more often than not.
All right, got about 25 seconds before I let you get out of here. Again, I won't hold you to it, but who do you like in both games tonight?
First of all, I'll take Corey Kluber. Sorry to say, against the Yankees, he's a money pitcher. He's been through all of this, and I can't see him having 2 bad starts in a row. And as for the Nationals, I have no idea what's going to happen. I think we could just as easily see the Cubs put a 6 spot in the bottom of the second inning and Strasburg be out of the game, as we could see the Strasburg that we saw in Game 1, where he doesn't allow a hit for 5 2/3 innings. Right. For some reason, I think the Nationals are going to be able to force a 5th game, and for Nationals fans, maybe even twist the knife a little bit more and have them lose in the 5th game, in some excruciating fashion, just to add to the narrative.
That's just sometimes these franchises, some of them are snake men. All right, my friend, you got a 4:08 first pitch. Looks like the weather's going to hold up in Chicago. Yankees at 8:08, and the Tribe. I appreciate it as always. We'll talk next week. We got a lot more to break down. All right, you got it. Be well, Steve.
You too. Fabulous drama tonight.
Exactly. Yeah, we enjoy it. All right, pal. Steve Gardner from USA Today. Great stuff as always.